Hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Mike here. Forgive my voice, it's going to come and go a little bit and there'll be a little coughing. I'm still recovering from a wicked secondary infection I got while I was dealing with COVID. But this is part 2 of me dealing with the material got from Mount Baker Mining and Metals from Jason over there. This is ground up motherboards that have been through Jason's process over there. They've been through his hammer mills and across his shaker tables, and what we got here is a big bag of his #1 concentrates after grinding up a bunch of motherboards that belonged to my friend Ken up in British Columbia, Canada. Ken sent me this stuff to see if I could find the value in it. Jason has tried some things. He's tried smelting this stuff down and tried to get it down to a mostly copper button with the precious metals still incorporated in it, that he could electro-win away the copper and get the precious metals out of the anode slimes. Well, I have the same idea. That's my original thought, was, well, let me try something a little different than Jason did and see if I can oxidize away the bulk of the base metals in here. There's a lot of base metals here. There's a lot of copper. There's a lot of tin. There's a lot of iron in here. And who knows what all in here. I imagine there's probably some tantalum from tantalum capacitors and who knows what. So my thought was to try and oxidize away a lot of these base metals and leave a copper prill behind, kind of like what Jason was trying to do. I just approached it from a different direction. What I would do is I put 200 grams of this stuff in a crucible along with some borax and varying amounts of different oxidizers and put them in my furnace and try to burn away the base metals and leave behind a prill of mostly copper. And I tried a lot of different experiments, a lot of different variations, different oxidizers and whatnot. And here are the prills I got over here with my experiments. And let me turn on my scale here. I don't know if that's going to show up. I think it is. Okay. These prills, now these are from different experiments with different oxidizers, and what's amazing about these is how consistent they are in weight. It's 140 grams. 140 grams. 140 grams. 140 grams. Well, 144. So they're all within 4 grams of each other. It's amazing how consistent they are, considering that no two batches of this stuff are exactly identical. I mean, there's different amounts of iron in here, there's different amounts of copper, different amounts of whatever. But it's like I could burn away 60 grams of this stuff and no more. Or about 30% of the mass of the material I could get rid of with this method. And then I kind of hit a wall. I just could not improve on it. And when that first video, part 1 video came out, there were some good comments and suggestions in that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Keep those comments and suggestions coming in. One comment was that I was using the wrong kind of crucible. And a lot of my oxidizer was going towards oxidizing the graphite in the crucible. And yeah, I could see that. Because here's the crucible I was using versus here's a new crucible. So you can see just how much that crucible's been eaten up. So a lot of the graphite in the crucible probably used up some of the oxidizer, but still, really, it just wasn't panning out the way I was expecting it to. First off, not only was I not getting rid of more than 30% of the material, this doesn't look like copper. So, you know, where's the copper? Supposedly this stuff is mostly copper. According to Jason, his XRF values are about 85% copper for this stuff. But I'm not finding the copper in it. I mean, I can see some copper in here, yeah, but these don't look like copper. They're very silvery, they're very shiny, so I don't know what's happening. I mean, I get rid of the 30% of the metal. Where's the 85% copper? You know, this does not look like copper at all. So this is very perplexing to me, okay? So, you know, Einstein says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So after these 4 tests, actually I did more than 4, I decided I needed to try something different. So I tried something different. So again, same 200 grams of this stuff, different type of flux, and I got this, 36 grams. So I had burned away 80% of the material and was left with this little prill right here. What did I do different? Well, instead of using various oxidizers, I just put 80 grams of sulfur in with it. And boy, was there a light show in that crucible too. As the sulfur interacted with the metals in here, holy moly. There was so much sparking and flaring, like you would not believe. It was even worse than with the oxidizers, which could be pretty impressive at times too. And that did a number on it. But, you know what? This still doesn't look like copper. Where the heck is the copper? That's what I'd like to know. I also have the answer to another mystery I had last time. Where's the iron going? I was thinking that the iron is either getting oxidized away or getting alloyed with the other metals and winding up in these prills. Well, yeah, that's what's happening. The iron is winding up in these prills, okay? Yep. So these prills have a good bit of iron in them. The iron was not getting oxidized away, but this little one right here, look at that. No iron in this. So the sulfur is oxidizing away the iron. But it also seems to be oxidizing away all the copper and a lot of other stuff. And I'm not sure what it's leaving behind. XRF would be very handy to know what is left in this prill. But unfortunately, I don't have access to XRF. If anybody out there has any good ideas where I can find somebody with an XRF gun who will do some testing for me at a reasonable cost, please leave me a comment. Let me know, okay? Because I would really like to know what's left in this prill. I tried dunking this in nitric acid and pretty much nothing happened. So whatever it is, it's pretty resistant. I was hoping it was going to be mostly silver, but no. If it was silver, we'd have got a decent reaction in nitric acid, but nope, no reaction. So anyway, I'm still hunting for the copper. So it looks like with these, we've still got a lot of base metals left behind, which is why they're so silvery. I imagine there's still a lot of copper in these, but they're mostly, or at least to a large extent, base metal. With this, it looks like we've gotten rid of all the copper as well as all the iron. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat this experiment today, but I'm going to use less sulfur. I used 80 grams before to 200 grams of this stuff and wound up with this. So this time, I think I'm going to cut back on the sulfur a lot and see if we can get rid of the iron and some of these other base metals without getting rid of all the copper. So that's what I'm going to try to do today, and we'll see how it turns out. So let me get set up to make up a batch, and we'll run it. And I think I'm going to retire this crucible. I think it's about done. Sooner or later it's going to burn through and dump all the stuff into the bottom of the furnace. So we'll use another crucible. And so let me get set up for that, and we'll mix up some flux, and we'll do this. Okay, let's start mixing up the ingredients, but I think instead of using my brand new crucible over here, I'm going to use this one, which has been used before but still in really good shape. It's not nearly as ate up as that one is, so we'll go with that. So first thing I need is 200 grams of the motherboard grindings. Let's see what we got in here. About 158, so we need some more here. A little bit more. There we go. 204, close enough. Put that in there. Now I'm going to put in 200 grams of soda ash. or sodium carbonate. Have to buy some more soon. I'm running out. Been doing a lot of smelting experiments lately. That's a little bit much. Put a little bit back. Close enough. This in here. $50 grams of silica. Basically, this is just finely sifted silica sand. 50 grams of this in there. It's going to be the same recipe I used before, but with less sulfur, basically. I keep overshooting. Close enough. This really isn't super critical. I'm going to put a little bit of borax in here because I find that there's going to be a lot of sulfides in this, and the flux is going to be really stiff and viscous after the sulfur interacts with all that metal and all the sulfides are created. The flux is really stiff and viscous, so I'm going to put some borax in as a thinner, about 50 grams of borax. That's going to thin the flux down a little bit, and I'll tell you what, it also helps the sulfides separate from the flux, and they tend to float on top, I found, by adding a little bit of borax to it. Now it's time for the sulfur. So let's see, I put in 80 grams last time. Let's cut that in half and see what we get. That may still be too much, I don't know, but we'll try cutting it in half. There's 44 grams. Get a little closer to 40 here. 36. There we go. 40 grams on the dot. Okay. Let me mix this stuff up. And we'll get it in the furnace. And we'll see what happens this time. We can burn away the more reactive metals with the sulfur and leave behind the less reactive, like copper. That would be ideal. Okay, I'd say that's pretty well mixed. So let's get it in the furnace and get it cooking. Okay, let's get this in the furnace. I think I've got everything here I need. Ready to go. Got the cone mold, tongs, everything. Got my second tank of propane because doing so many smelting experiments, that tank's about empty. So we'll probably have to switch over at some point. So let me get the furnace lit. Get this party started, and once this stuff starts heating up, I'll try and get you a look at the light show in there as the sulfur interacts with the metal in there, because it was quite impressive when I did it before. Too bad I didn't film it then. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is kind of the reverse of smelting sulfides, where I'm trying to get gold out of sulfides in gold ore. Here I'm trying to create sulfides as a way to get rid of the base metals in that stuff, and then just leave behind the more resistant metals like the copper, the gold, the silver, what else? You know, the platinum group metals. So that's what I'm working on here. We'll see how it goes this time. I've been trying to film some of the flares in there as the metal reacts with the sulfur. It'd be pretty impressive when it happens, but of course it's not happening while I'm filming. Oh, there was a little one. I don't know if that showed up. There's been some much brighter ones too. Yeah, there's one. See that? Throwing off sparks. Ooh, it's hot. Gotta back off a little bit. But yeah, there's one. Ooh, I hope that's all showing up. I gotta back up. It's too hot. Ooh, too hot in there. Fortunately, I'm standing upwind. I don't want to be breathing those sulfur fumes, and trying to shade the opening so we can see inside a little bit out here in the bright sun. Oh, there was another flare, but of course I wasn't zoomed in enough that you could probably see it. But yeah, it's quite a fireworks display in there as that sulfur attacks the base metals in there. There's one. Oh, look at that. Ah, finally got a good one. Cool. All right, I'm going to back off and just let that cook. And let it do its thing. I got to get out of the heat and out of the fumes. I don't want to be breathing those sulfur fumes. Well, it's been a while longer. We're on the second tank now. And the bubbling has subsided a lot, but it's still bubbling pretty good. I hope it's showing up. I still see flares in there like that one. So we've still got reactions going on. So I'm going to let this cook for quite a while longer. Ooh, it's too hot. I got to back up. I'm going to let this cook for quite a while longer before I pour it into the cone mold over there. Just to make sure that the reactions run to completion. Okay. So just going to let it go. It looks like we're getting a scum of sulfides on the surface though. That's kind of what I saw last time, only there's less this time. Because I use less sulfur. So that makes sense. Okay, the bubbling has really subsided. Don't see any more flares happening in there. It looks like it's pretty much reached a steady state. So it's time to preheat the cone mold. Get that going. That'll just take a few minutes over that roaring flame. And then we'll be ready to pour. And I've arranged so there's some shade down here where the cone mold's going to be, so maybe we can see the cool patterns of the convection cells in the liquid material in there. We'll see how it goes this time. I've been trying to film that for a while. My foundry furnace is out in the open where there's always bright sun when I'm running it, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, I think that's hot enough. It doesn't take very long. Oh yeah, plenty. This over here, this over here. Get my face shield on just in case anything splatters. Ooh, that is hot. Any luck at all, we'll get some copper this time. Well, you're not going to be able to see much of the cool convection cells because of all the sulfides hanging out on the surface there. I don't know what you can see at all because it's so bright out here. I can't see the screen on the camera. Ooh, that is hot though. Trust me. Yeah, that's all sulfides hanging out on the top there that we've created with my reverse smelting. Okay, we'll let that cool down and we'll see what kind of prill we get in there. Let me get the furnace shut down and I'll get that in front of the fan once it cools down a little bit. Okay, got that moved in front of my big fan, so we'll just let that sit there and cool off. It's still insanely hot even though it's solidified. So we'll let it cool off until I can handle it without worrying about burning myself. We'll dump it out and see what we got. Okay, this is good and cool now. Let's see what we've got. Well, got a much bigger prill, but it still doesn't look very coppery. I sure would like to know where the copper is hiding. Look how silver that is. I mean, there must be a lot of copper in here, mustn't there? Must be other stuff alloyed with it, making it so shiny. Get some more of the slag off of it and we'll weigh it up. See what we got. There's a few little beads of metal in the slag too. It didn't all consolidate. Yeah, I see a few beads of metal in there. They don't seem to amount to much though. Let's see what the main mass weighs. Alright, let's see what we've got here. 116 grams. So that's interesting. 116 grams. 38 grams. So that's the difference. 40 grams of sulfur made. Wow, 40 grams of sulfur will burn away a lot of metal. Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. I wonder if I should try it the other way. Maybe I should add more sulfur and try and get rid of even more of this metal. That's a thought. That's a thought. Let me grind the corners off of this and see what the color of the metal looks like on the inside. See if it's at all coppery. Let me check that out. I don't know how well that's showing up, but that's bright and silvery as can be inside there. Not the least bit coppery looking. Where the heck is the copper? Okay, good question. Well, Jason and I seem to both be having trouble finding the copper we're looking for in this stuff. We both came at it from different directions and we're both hitting a brick wall. So, need to think about that. Maybe I should try more sulfur and see if I can reduce the amount of leftover metal even more. Maybe we will get down to just silver and gold eventually. That's a possibility. I have some other ideas too. I have these here, and I have some ideas for further treating them to see if I can get the precious metals out of them. I've been doing a lot of research and read up on a very, very old technique, almost medieval, not really used anymore, for separating mixed metals, called liquation. And I may give that a try. So, suffice it to say, there's going to be a part 3, because we are not there yet. We're not there yet. So, a little bit of mission creep may be coming in too. I was, hoping to get these turned into mostly copper, but that's not happening. But that was just an intermediate step on the way to getting the precious metals. If there's a more direct way to get the precious metals, well, why not? And skip the intermediate step of refining the copper. It's a long time consuming step anyway. So let me do a little more experimenting and we'll see what happens by the time I'm ready to film episode 3. And keep those comments and suggestions coming, because there were some really good ones after episode 1. I really appreciate it. So yeah, keep those comments and suggestions coming. Well, I was going to end this video here, but this just in, we have news. Ken came through and sent me the assay that Jason over at Mount Baker Mining and Metals did on this material after he processed it for Ken. So it's a very long document, and I'm trying not to lose it in the wind because it's very windy today. We got another hurricane coming at us. It's not an Ian, it's only a category 1, and it's coming in the other side of the state, so we're not even going to be boarding up the house or anything, but it's a little windy today. It's going to be the last day before the weather goes to hell for a while. Basically, the big number is we got almost 4 ounces of gold per ton in this material, and about 14.4 ounces of silver per ton in this material, which, Yeah, it's really rich material. You know, if you could find a deposit out in the wild that was that great, you'd be mining it in a heartbeat, because that's some rich stuff. But there's a lot of other stuff mixed in with it, which makes it hard to separate. There's some palladium in it, about 1/3 of an ounce per ton. There is copper, 530 pounds per ton, which makes it by far the heaviest constituent of this stuff, even though I'm having trouble finding it. And I think I know, looking through this assay report, I think I know why I'm having trouble finding it. Yeah, there's a lot of iron in here, 141 pounds per ton, which they thought was curiously high. 86 pounds per ton of tin, 62 pounds per ton of zinc, 34 pounds per ton of lead, 15 pounds per ton of nickel. Now, it makes it seem like, looking at these numbers, like the copper is like the main constituent of this stuff. But if you dive down deeper into this report and you start looking at some of this other stuff here, copper. Okay, if we look at parts per million, copper is at 26,300 parts per million. Okay, but if we come down here and look at tin, 42,600 parts per million. There's actually more tin in this stuff than copper. Copper is a very dense metal. It's much more dense than almost anything else in this that's there to any appreciable amount. So, yeah, okay, so we got a fair amount of copper in there, you know, weight-wise per ton, but parts per million-wise, no. There's not that much copper in there. Tin, there's almost twice as much tin as copper in there. And then what else have we got here? Go to the next page. Zinc, 30,600 parts per million. There's more zinc in here than copper. The zinc and the tin together, there's 4 times as much zinc and tin together in there as there's copper. So that's why I'm having so much trouble reducing these to copper. And there's some weird stuff going on here, like 9,210 parts per million of barium. I don't know. Somebody help me out if you have experience with this sort of thing. Why would there be so much barium in circuit boards? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know if that's an anomalous result or what. We got a fair amount of calcium in there. We got manganese. Of course, we got iron. We know that. Let's see. We got nickel. Not very much lead. Tantalum is almost non-existent, which I find surprising, and the assay company found it surprising too, because normally with electronics you got tantalum capacitors, and there would be some tantalum in them. We got some titanium in there, though not a huge amount. So yeah, I think that's why I'm having trouble finding the copper, just because it is not the major component of this material that I was led to believe it was. It's actually probably better to call it a minor component. So I'm going to have to rethink my strategy a little bit. I think there's going to be some mission creep here. I don't think we're going to be able to turn these into copper anodes for an anode cell, just because there really isn't that much copper in them, you know, in a parts per million sense. Yeah, weight per ton, yeah, there's a lot of copper there, but parts per million, no, it's mostly other stuff. So, gonna have to give this a rethink and do some more experimenting, and we'll see what I come up with by the time we're ready to air part 3 of this series. Maybe I'll have some fresh ideas, and of course, if you folks out there have any suggestions, comments, constructive criticism, good ideas, whatever, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I find my audience is very intelligent and comes up with a lot of good ideas. So please leave a comment down below. And I will be thinking about this too and doing some experimenting off camera. And when I come up with something, that will be part 3, and we'll see what I come up with. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you found it at all interesting, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to see future videos, part 3 when it comes out, and lots of other videos. I got some other stuff coming out. Ken sent me a lot of good stuff in that goodie box, and there's going to be some more videos based on what was in that box. So watch for those, and subscribe, and I will see you in those future videos. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Have a good one. Bye.